I'll be right back.
So right now, I have about 500 pieces.
There is a book for that.
Oh, really?
A book
I need it.
just entitled Why Your 5-Year-Old Comes to That.
Welcome back to Crossover and to our discussion of Chinese contemporary art. Just joining us right now in our studio is David Chow, who is an avid art collector. Hi, David.
Hi, thank you.
It's good having you here. I hear that you are not only one of the biggest contemporary Chinese art collectors, but also one of the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get interested in contemporary Chinese art?
I guess young is all relative, right?
For a long time.
For a long time. So you started very early.
I did. I started in 2003 when I was 19.
19 years
19.
old. Yes.
With your
Wow.
first piece, what did you purchase?
Actually, my first piece was a work on paper by an old artist named Wu Dayu. He was one of the founders for China Academy in Hangzhou, which was called Hangzhou Yizhuan back then.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
What drew you to contemporary Chinese art? Did you start with contemporary Chinese art, or were you interested in art already before that?
Well, actually, I was that was my major in college. I studied in UBC in Vancouver, and I got into art history course because I wasn't really good at anything else. But I love stories and I love history. I was a history buff, so I got into art history, and then and actually I was in my professor. You know, she was Chinese and she knew a lot of Chinese artists. So I actually started helping out with a lot of artists. Actually, I was helping out with Huang Yongping and Xu Bing's show when they were doing them in Vancouver. So that's how I got connected in Chinese contemporary art.
Okay.
And so from that first piece that you purchased, it was 2003, you said?
That was 2003, yes.
2003. You know, where are you now today in terms of your collection?
It went through a couple periods of, you know, identity searching, you know, but I think around 2007-8, after the crush of the market, I finally kind of found out what I really wanted with the direction of my collection. So I kind of sold some pieces, some collections that I don't really need anymore, and I fine-tuned my collection into the stuff that I will keep on collecting from now on. So right now, I have about 500 pieces.
And how would you describe your collection? What's the identity?
I think I have one of the biggest collection of new media art in China right now. So which is completely different angles.
You know, one of the questions that Yi and I were asking is, you know, as an audience, you tend to judge art. You know, when it comes to art, you can tend to say, well, is this good art or is this bad art? And how do you evaluate art? How do you choose which paintings to go into your collection?
Well, because my background is more of art history background, so I do tend to have I look through the art historical angle more than more of an instinct, you know. But with the young art, I'm actually trying to be more of, instead of looking through history, you know, I'm looking through what's going to happen in the future.
I think at the moment we are living in a time perhaps is the best of time and the worst of time. A time when the best and the mediocre can both survive in the art world.
Right.
The art world is very much diversifying with its multi-layers that is providing access to all kinds of audience and collectors from the very top to the very massive. However, I think there is still a system that you can follow. I think most conventionally that would be art criticism. Art criticism generated by the study of art history and art theory, and also in close inspection with our social reality.
Right.
In the meantime, I think what David mentioned, one of his collecting strategy, that is instinct, which is also very important. I think there will always be the moment that we have goosebumps all over our body when seeing the work, and I think it's almost like your instinct telling you.
The more you look, you just kind of know what's good.
Yeah.
It's trained eyes, really visual experience, very much trained and refined visual experience that can really tell you what you're looking at and if it's worth for your time.
So there's no hope for me. None of me.
Well, I think a lot of the reason why people are asking this type of questions, especially with contemporary art, Chinese art, contemporary art, is because they look at a contemporary piece of contemporary art, they go, well, I could have done that myself,
right,
or I could have done the performance myself,
well,
and so how is it different?
Sometimes I look at contemporary art and I think my 8-year-old could have done that painting.
There is a book for that.
Oh, really?
A book
I need it.
that's entitled Why Your 5-Year-Old Can't Do That.
My 8-year-old might be able to, though. 5-year-old, maybe not. 8, perhaps.
Well, Chinese contemporary art has grown a lot in the past 30, 40 years, and especially nowadays, in the past 10 years, we're seeing this burgeoning of contemporary Chinese art. Why is that?
With more money now.
Well, that's exactly
one reason.
Yeah. From a collector's
point of view. Yeah.
Yes, and also I think partially thanks to the government policy that is really promoting the soft power, even the cultural side of the society, and this the booming of institutions, public or private, all across the country, not just in Beijing, Shanghai, but also in Wuhan, in some what we call the second-tier cities as well.
David, is it easier for private galleries to exist right now?
I think it is quite easy because there is a big market for it. But the problem is there's not enough people with the experts to do well.
Let's talk a little bit about this market, because who is buying the art? Is it Chinese? Is it the international community?
I think everyone's buying.
Or the artists themselves.
Yeah.
Artists buys a lot of art, actually.
Yeah. So I would say that there are different kind of collectors buying Chinese contemporary art. There could be the collector who has been collecting classical art until yesterday and then starts being interested as well in contemporary, different contemporary facets of it. Or there could be the young collectors, like I think we have one very good example here, like David, who might be interested in historical pieces, and as well now very, very young artists. Or there could be collectors who grew up abroad and probably go back to their own culture from a different perspective. Or there could be the Western collectors who are interested in the culture itself, in Chinese culture, or who are very big collectors and are trying to collecting worldwide. Art pieces they might find interesting by themselves or to add to their specific concept, because each collector is different, as each artist is different, so you have to know them well to know what they might be interested in, how the collection might turn, and what kind of pieces they might change in time.
Will we see a good return in contemporary art? And how long do we need to invest in it? Is it long-term investment? Will we be able to flip these in 5 years, or are we looking at a 20-year, 30-year horizon?
It depends on the quality of what you collect, but this is not completely predictable, right?
I saw a smirk in David's face, so...
Yeah, because I was just... Well, it really depends on the kind of art you buy. I mean, with the kind of... I mean,
what experience have you had?
I'm definitely not a good, smart investor in that sense buying art, because the kind of art I buy, you know, multimedia, installations, performance art, you're not going to be able to flip them.
So let me understand this, and I guess I just don't, because I can understand, okay, I'm going to buy a piece, I'm going to buy a painting, or I'm going to buy a sculpture, and I'm going to put that either in my private collection or I'll put that in my home. But you're buying a piece of performance art. What does that mean? What exactly do you own? What have you bought? And then what do you do with that once it's in your collection?
Well, you pretty much own the rights to exhibit the piece.
Okay.
And the right to transfer the piece in the future if there's a market for it.
It's like buying a screenplay.
In a way.
Yeah, in a way.
In a way, yes. But as you guys were mentioning, like buying art for new collectors, it's actually a scary thing. If for someone who have never bought art pieces and go into an art gallery with all white walls and art pieces and nobody telling you what to do, it's a pretty scary
Right, all three of you, I mean, you pretty much represent and embody this ecosystem that supports the artist and the future consumer or collector. David, you mentioned before, you know, you're promoting art because it was something that wasn't done before. You know, you've created this foundation. What else needs to be done?
I'm excited to see how the internet is going to change the art world. It's probably the last place that it hasn't really changed completely, but I believe it will.
All right. Well, I want to thank our male guests today for joining us on the program. David and Li Qi, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Now,